Imagine discovering that the bravest person you've ever met was right in front of you, disguised as a clumsy waitress. Avery Lockhart, billionaire heiress, traded her penthouse for an apron to uncover the truth about her company, but she never expected to find a hero in the restaurant's quietest girl. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. The rain was pounding against the windows of Murphy's Diner that night. Inside, two women were about to change each other's lives forever. The grease from the fryer hit Avery's face like a slap of reality. She wiped her forehead with the back of her hand, leaving a streak of sweat mixed with flour. 6 weeks ago, she'd been sitting in boardrooms worth more than this entire town. Now she was learning that hash browns could burn your fingers through supposedly heat-resistant gloves. "New girl, table 4 needs their check." Dolores, the head waitress, barked orders like a drill sergeant. Her voice cut through the diner's chaos of sizzling bacon and clinking plates. Avery grabbed the receipt pad, her manicured nails now chipped and stained. She'd practiced this, walked differently, talked differently, even learned to flinch when customers got loud. The Lockhart empire owned 17 restaurant chains across the South. Her father's company employed thousands of women just like the ones working beside her now, but Avery had never actually met one. Until now. "You okay, honey?" The voice was soft, almost whispered. Avery turned to find Lena Brooks standing behind her, holding a steaming coffee pot. The girl couldn't be older than 25, with auburn hair pulled back in a messy bun and eyes the color of storm clouds. Lena always spoke like she was apologizing for existing. "I'm fine," Avery lied, flexing her burned fingers. Lena set down the coffee pot and reached into her apron. She pulled out a small tube of aloe gel, the kind that cost maybe $3 at the drugstore. "Here, it helps." Their fingers brushed as Lena handed over the tube. Avery felt something electric shoot up her arm. Not attraction. Something deeper. Recognition, maybe. Like seeing herself in a funhouse mirror. Lena Brooks had been working at Murphy's for 3 years. She arrived before dawn, left after midnight, and never complained. Not when customers yelled, not when her paycheck was short, not when Dolores made her clean the grease traps alone. Everyone knew she was supporting her grandmother. Nobody knew much else. Avery squeezed the aloe onto her fingers, watching Lena refill coffee cups with practiced efficiency. The girl moved like a ghost, invisible until someone needed something. "Thank you," Avery said. Lena's cheeks flushed pink. "It's nothing." But it wasn't nothing. In Avery's world, people helped her because they wanted something. Money, connections, access. Lena helped because someone was hurt. The bell above the door chimed. A trucker walked in, rain dripping from his jacket. He slumped into a corner booth, already reaching for his phone. "I got him," Lena whispered, grabbing a menu. Avery watched her approach the table. The trucker barely looked up, grunting his order. Black coffee, eggs over easy, wheat toast. Lena scribbled it down, her handwriting neat despite her shaking hands. "Anything else?" "Yeah." The trucker's eyes traveled up and down her body. "Your number." Lena's face went white. I'll get your coffee." She hurried back to the counter, her breathing shallow. Avery felt her chest tighten with rage. In her real life, men like that wouldn't dare. But here, wearing this uniform, she was just another target. "He's harmless," Dolores said, noticing Lena's distress. "Just ignore him." Harmless. The word sat heavy in Avery's stomach. She thought about the harassment policies at Lockhart Industries, pages and pages of legal protection that looked impressive on paper. But what good were policies when women like Lena were told to just ignore it? The trucker snapped his fingers when Lena brought his coffee. "Careful, sweetheart. Don't want to spill on this pretty uniform." His hand brushed her hip as she set down the cup. Lena jerked away like she'd been burned. Avery's hands clenched into fists. She'd taken self-defense classes at an exclusive Manhattan gym. She could drop this guy in 3 moves. But she couldn't. Not without blowing her cover. Lena finished her shift in silence, avoiding the trucker's table. When he finally left, she sagged against the counter like a deflated balloon. "You okay?" Avery asked. "I'm used to it." Those 4 words hit Avery like a punch to the gut. Used to it. How many women in her father's empire were used to it? The diner emptied as the night wore on. Just the staff remained, cleaning and prepping for tomorrow. Avery scrubbed tables while Lena counted the register. "Where you from?" Lena asked suddenly. Avery's heart skipped. She'd rehearsed this answer 100 times. "Atlanta. Lost my job. Needed a fresh start." It wasn't entirely a lie. She had lost something. Her illusions about the family business. "I'm sorry," Lena said. "That's hard. What about you?" "Born here. Never left." Lena's voice carried a wistfulness that made Avery's chest ache. "Always wanted to see the ocean, though. Why don't you?" Lena's laugh was bitter. "Can't leave Grandma. She's got dementia. Needs round-the-clock care." Avery did quick math in her head. Lena's wages, minus rent, minus medical bills, minus groceries. There was nothing left for dreams. The ocean's overrated anyway, Avery lied. She thought about her penthouse view of the Hudson River, the yacht she'd taken to the Hamptons last summer, the private beach in Malibu where she'd hosted charity galas. All of it felt hollow now. "Maybe someday," Lena said softly. They finished cleaning in comfortable silence. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the parking lot slick and shining under the streetlights. "Need a ride?" Lena asked, pulling keys from her purse. Avery looked at the beat-up Honda Civic, its bumper held on with duct tape. In her real life, she'd never set foot in a car worth less than 6 figures. "That's okay. I like walking." Lena nodded, but she waited until Avery was halfway down the street before starting her engine. Making sure she was safe, Avery walked to the motel where she'd been staying, her mind racing. She'd come here to gather intelligence about employee treatment. Instead, she'd found something else entirely. She'd found Lena. In her room, Avery stared at her reflection in the cracked mirror. The expensive skincare routine had been replaced with drugstore moisturizer. The designer clothes hung in a Manhattan closet she hadn't seen in weeks, but for the first time in her life, she felt real. Her phone buzzed. A text from her assistant. "Board meeting moved to Thursday. Need you back ASAP." Avery stared at the message. In a few weeks, she'd have to return to her old life, leave this place, leave Lena. The thought made her stomach twist. She set the phone aside and lay down on the lumpy mattress. Tomorrow, she'd go back to Murphy's. Back to burned fingers and rude customers and Dolores's barking orders. Back to Lena. Outside her window, thunder rumbled in the distance. Another storm was coming. The morning rush hit Murphy's like a tornado. Avery's hands moved faster than her brain, pouring coffee, taking orders, dodging Dolores's increasingly creative insults. The breakfast crowd was ruthless. Construction workers who wanted their eggs perfect, office workers running late and taking it out on the staff. "Order up." Jimmy, the cook, slammed plates onto the pass. "Table 6. Hold the attitude." Lena appeared beside Avery, balancing 4 plates on her arms like a circus performer. Her movements were fluid, practiced. She'd been doing this dance for years. "How do you make it look so easy?" Avery asked, nearly dropping a stack of pancakes. "Practice." Lena's smile was tired but genuine. "You'll get it." A businessman in an expensive suit snapped his fingers at Avery. "Coffee, now." She bit back the response that came naturally. Something about manners and basic human decency. Instead, she forced a smile and grabbed the pot. "Right away, sir." The man didn't look up from his phone as she poured. His wedding ring caught the fluorescent light, and Avery wondered if he talked to his wife the same way. "This is cold," he said after one sip. Avery felt her cheeks burn. She'd just brewed a fresh pot 5 minutes ago. "I can get you a new cup. Forget it. Just bring my check." He left a $1 tip on a $15 meal. Lena watched the interaction from across the room, her expression unreadable. When the businessman left, she approached Avery with a fresh cup of coffee. "For you," she said quietly. "You look like you need it." The coffee was perfect, not too strong, with just a hint of cream. Avery realized Lena had been watching her, learning her preferences. "Thank you." "He's a regular," Lena said, nodding toward the door. "Comes in every Tuesday, treats everyone like garbage. His wife probably doesn't know he exists." There was no bitterness in her voice, just observation. Lena saw people clearly, without judgment. "How do you stand it?" Avery asked. "Everyone's fighting something. Lena said. Maybe he's just fighting harder than most. Avery stared at her. In boardrooms, she'd learned to read people's weaknesses, exploit their insecurities. Lena saw their pain instead. The lunch crowd brought new challenges. A table of college kids who ordered water and split one sandwich. A mother with 3 screaming toddlers who left Cheerios ground into the carpet. An elderly man who sat alone, making his coffee last 2 hours. Lena treated them all the same, with quiet kindness. She's something else, isn't she? Avery turned to find Marcus, the dishwasher, watching Lena clear tables. He was maybe 19, with kind eyes and calloused hands. What do you mean? Lena. She's like, I don't know. An angel or something. Marcus's voice carried the reverence of a teenage crush. Last month, my mom got sick. Couldn't work. Lena heard about it and just showed up, with groceries. Said she had extra from some coupon thing, but I know she bought them herself. Avery's chest tightened. She did that? She does stuff like that all the time. Quiet-like, doesn't want credit. Marcus scrubbed a plate with unnecessary force. Girl works herself to death for everyone else. What about her grandmother? Miss Eleanor? She's sweet, used to be a teacher before the dementia hit. Lena takes care of everything, medicine, doctor visits, everything. Never complains. Avery watched Lena refill the elderly man's coffee without being asked. She sat with him for a moment, listening to whatever story he was telling. His face lit up like Christmas morning. She's too good for this place, Marcus continued. Too good for this whole damn town. Then why doesn't she leave? Marcus gave her a look like she'd asked why fish need water. Where's she gonna go? What's she gonna do? Leave Miss Eleanor? Lena would die first. The afternoon lull brought a different kind of exhaustion. Avery's feet screamed in the cheap shoes she'd bought at Walmart. Her back ached from bending over tables. Her hands were raw from sanitizer and hot water. She found Lena in the break room, eating a peanut butter sandwich and reading a paperback novel. The cover was worn, the pages yellowed. Good book? Avery asked, settling into the plastic chair across from her. It's about a woman who travels the world, Lena said, closing it carefully. Sees the pyramids, swims in the Mediterranean. Silly stuff. Doesn't sound silly to me. Lena's cheeks flushed. I like to imagine what it would be like. Different places, different people. You could do that? Travel. With what money? Lena's laugh held no humor. I make enough to keep the lights on and buy Grandma's medicine. That's it. Avery wanted to tell her about the trust fund that could buy 12 trips around the world, about the private jets and 5-star hotels and experiences money could buy. Instead, she said, maybe someday things will change. Maybe. Lena's voice carried the weight of someone who'd stopped believing in maybe a long time ago. The dinner shift brought its own chaos. A birthday party that wanted separate checks. A couple on a first date who argued over appetizers. A group of teenagers who left without paying. Dolores exploded when she found the empty table. $43, she screamed. That's coming out of someone's paycheck. The staff exchanged glances. They all knew who would end up paying, whoever had served the table. In this case, Lena. I'll cover it, Avery said quickly. Like hell you will, Dolores snapped. She served them. She pays. It wasn't her fault. I said I'll handle it, Lena interrupted, her voice barely above a whisper. Avery watched her count out crumpled bills from her tip jar. $43, probably half her take for the night. The injustice of it made Avery's blood boil. In her real life, she'd fire someone for treating employees this way. Here, she was powerless. After closing, Avery helped Lena stack chairs on tables. The diner felt different in the quiet. Smaller. Sadder. You didn't have to offer to pay, Lena said. Yes, I did. Why? Avery paused, a chair halfway to the table. Because you're the kindest person I've ever met. Because you deserve better than this. Because watching you suffer makes me want to burn this whole system down. Because it wasn't fair, she said instead. Lena smiled. The first real smile Avery had seen from her all day. You're different, Lena said. Most people who work here, they're just passing through, waiting for something better, but you actually care. If only she knew, Avery thought. If only she knew that something better was sitting right across from her, disguised in a stained uniform. They finished cleaning and walked out together. The parking lot was empty except for Lena's Honda and the beat-up truck Avery had bought to maintain her cover. "Same time tomorrow?" Lena asked. "Wouldn't miss it." Lena drove away, her taillights disappearing into the Tennessee night. Avery sat in her truck for a long moment, staring at the darkened diner. Her phone buzzed. Another message from her assistant. "Your father wants to discuss the quarterly reports. When can you call?" Avery deleted the message without responding. She thought about Lena counting out those crumpled bills, about Marcus's mother and the groceries that appeared like magic, about an elderly man whose day was brightened by a moment of genuine attention. This was what her father's empire looked like from the bottom. Not the polished corporate reports or the carefully staged employee appreciation events. This was the reality. Good people ground down by a system that saw them as expendable. Avery started the truck and drove to her motel. Tomorrow she'd put on the uniform again, serve coffee to people who treated her like furniture, watch Lena give pieces of herself to everyone who needed them, and she'd fall a little deeper into a life that wasn't supposed to be hers, but felt more real than anything she'd ever known. 3 weeks into her double life, Avery had learned the rhythm of Murphy's Diner like a heartbeat, the morning regulars who wanted their coffee before they'd even sat down, the lunch crowd that moved like a hurricane through the dining room, the evening stragglers who lingered over pie and memories. But mostly, she'd learned Lena. How she hummed under her breath when she thought no one was listening, old country songs her grandmother used to sing. How she saved the broken cookies from the display case to feed the stray cat behind the dumpster. How she kept a small notebook in her apron pocket, writing down things customers said that made her smile. "What's in there?" Avery asked one afternoon, nodding at the notebook. Lena's cheeks turned pink. "Just quotes. Things people say that stick with me." "Like what?" "Yesterday, Mrs. Henderson told me her granddaughter took her first steps. She said it was like watching magic happen in slow motion." Lena's eyes lit up. "I thought that was beautiful." Avery watched her tuck the notebook away carefully. In her real life, she collected art worth millions. But she'd never seen anything more precious than Lena's collection of small moments. "You should write," Avery said. "Write what?" "Stories. About people. You see them differently than anyone else." Lena laughed, but it wasn't dismissive. It was wistful. "I used to want to be a teacher, like Grandma, but life had other plans. It's not too late. I'm 26, working at a diner, taking care of someone who doesn't remember my name half the time." Lena's voice cracked slightly. "I think that ship has sailed." Avery wanted to tell her about the scholarships the Lockhart Foundation funded, about the programs that helped working adults go back to school, about the resources that could change everything. Instead, she said, "Dreams don't have expiration dates." That evening, Lena invited Avery to meet her grandmother. The house was small but immaculate, with a garden that spoke of years of careful tending. Eleanor Brooks sat on the front porch, wrapped in a quilt despite the warm evening. "Grandma, this is my friend from work, the one I told you about." Eleanor's eyes were cloudy but kind. "The new girl. Lena says you're learning fast. She's a good teacher," Avery said, settling into the chair beside her. "She's a good everything." Eleanor's voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. "Raised her since she was 12, you know, after her parents died. Never gave me a moment's trouble." Avery glanced at Lena, who was deadheading roses with unnecessary focus. "Car accident," Eleanor continued, her voice matter of fact. "Drunk driver. Lena was supposed to be with them, but she had the flu. Sometimes I think she blames herself for surviving." "Grandma," Lena said softly, "it's true, honey. You carry guilt that isn't yours to carry." They sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies dance in the gathering dusk. Eleanor dozed in her chair, and Lena brought out sweet tea and homemade cookies. "She has good days and bad days," Lena explained quietly. "Today's a good day. She remembers everything clearly. Tomorrow..." She shrugged. "That must be hard." "The hardest part is watching her disappear piece by piece. Some mornings she wakes up and doesn't know where she is. Gets scared." Lena's voice broke slightly. I hate seeing her scared. Avery reached over and squeezed her hand. You're doing something beautiful, taking care of her. I'm all she has left, and she's lucky to have you. Lena's eyes filled with tears. She quickly blinked away. Sorry, I don't usually talk about this stuff. Why not? Because what's the point? Complaining won't change anything. Avery studied her profile in the porch light. Lena had been dealt a hand that would break most people. Instead, she'd become stronger, kinder, more generous. You know what I think? Avery said. What? I think you're the bravest person I've ever met. Lena turned to stare at her. Brave? I'm terrified all the time. That's what makes it brave, doing what needs to be done even when you're scared. They talked until Eleanor woke up confused, asking for her husband who'd been dead for 15 years. Lena gently redirected her, helping her inside with infinite patience. I should go, Avery said when Lena returned. Thank you for coming, for listening. Thank you for trusting me. Driving back to the motel, Avery's chest felt tight with emotions she couldn't name. She'd grown up with every advantage money could buy, but she'd never seen courage like Lena's. Her phone rang as she pulled into the parking lot. Her father's name flashed on the screen. Avery, where the hell are you? Hello to you too, Dad. Don't be smart with me. You missed the board meeting. Again. Margaret says you haven't returned her calls. Avery closed her eyes. I'm taking some time to think. Think about what? You have responsibilities. The Henderson acquisition needs your signature. Maybe I don't want to acquire Henderson Industries. Silence. Then, what's gotten into you? Everything, she wanted to say. I've gotten into the real world, and it's nothing like what you taught me. I need more time, she said instead. Time for what? To play whatever game you're playing? This isn't like you, Avery. He was right. The old Avery would never have walked away from a billion-dollar deal to serve coffee in Tennessee. The old Avery cared about profit margins and market share and beating the competition. But the old Avery had never met Lena Brooks. I'll call you next week, she said. Avery, she hung up and turned off the phone. The next morning brought chaos. The coffee machine broke down. The delivery truck was late, and Dolores was in a mood that could curdle milk. This is a disaster, she screamed, watching customers walk out after waiting 20 minutes for coffee. We're losing money. Avery watched Lena handle the crisis with quiet efficiency. She made coffee in the small pot from the break room, 1 cup at a time. She explained the situation to every customer personally, offering free pie to make up for the wait. Most people stayed. Some even left bigger tips. How do you do that? Avery asked during a brief lull. Do what? Make people feel like they matter, even when everything's falling apart. Lena considered this. I guess because they do matter. Everyone's got somewhere to be, something important to them. The least I can do is treat them like human beings. A businessman at table 3 started getting loud about the wait. His voice carried across the diner, making other customers uncomfortable. This is ridiculous. I have a meeting. Lena approached his table with a fresh cup of coffee and a slice of apple pie. I'm so sorry about the delay, she said. This is on the house. And if you're really pressed for time, there's a Starbucks about 2 miles down the highway. Her tone was gentle, helpful, not defensive or sarcastic. The man's anger deflated. No, this is fine. Thank you. Avery marveled at it. Lena had diffused the situation without making anyone feel bad. She'd given the man an out, while making him feel heard. In boardrooms, Avery had learned to win by making others lose. Lena won by making everyone feel like they'd won. Where did you learn to do that? Avery asked later. Do what? Handle people. You're like a magician. Lena laughed. Grandma used to say you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. People just want to feel seen, acknowledged. That afternoon, Avery found herself really looking at the customers for the first time. The construction worker who ordered the same thing every day, black coffee, 2 sugars, wheat toast, and always asked about Lena's grandmother. The single mother who brought her kids in for pancakes on Fridays, their one weekly treat. The elderly couple who shared a piece of pie and held hands across the table. These weren't just transactions, they were moments, connections. small threads in the fabric of a community, and Lena was the one weaving them together. "You're staring," Lena said, appearing beside her with a coffee pot. "Sorry, just thinking." "About what?" "About how you're changing everything I thought I knew about what matters. About how watching you makes me want to be a better person. About how I'm falling for someone who doesn't even know my real name. About how lucky this place is to have you," Avery said. Lena's smile could have powered the whole diner. "You're sweet," she said, "but I'm just doing my job." "No," Avery thought. "You're doing magic." And I'm starting to understand why. The storm hit on a Thursday night in late September. Rain lashed against Murphy's windows like angry fists, and the wind howled through the parking lot. Most of the evening crowd had stayed home, leaving the diner nearly empty. Avery wiped down tables that didn't need cleaning, stealing glances at Lena behind the counter. 3 months of working together had created an easy rhythm between them, shared looks across the dining room. Inside jokes about difficult customers, a friendship that felt deeper than it should. "Slow night," Lena observed, counting the register for the 3rd time. "Good thing." "I don't think anyone should be driving in this." Thunder crashed overhead, making them both jump. The lights flickered ominously. "Great," Dolores muttered from the kitchen. "If we lose power, we lose everything in the freezers." At 9:30, the bell above the door chimed. A man stumbled in, soaked to the skin and reeking of alcohol. He was maybe 40, with bloodshot eyes, and hands that shook as he fumbled for a seat. Avery felt her stomach clench. She'd learned to read the signs, the aggressive posture, the way his gaze lingered too long on the female staff. "Coffee," he slurred, not bothering with pleasantries. Lena approached his table with practiced caution. "Of course. Anything else?" "Yeah." His eyes traveled up and down her body with obvious intent. "How about you sit with me? Keep me company." "I'm working," Lena said politely, "but I'll get that coffee right away." She turned to leave, but his hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. "I wasn't asking." Avery's blood turned to ice. She started moving before she'd consciously decided to, but Lena caught her eye and shook her head slightly. "Don't make it worse. Sir, please let go of my arm," Lena said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Come on, sweetheart. Just 5 minutes. I'm lonely. I understand, but I really can't." His grip tightened. "You can't what? Be nice to a paying customer?" Dolores emerged from the kitchen, took one look at the situation, and disappeared back into the office. Jimmy, the cook, was already gone for the night. Marcus had left an hour ago. It was just the 3 of them. "Let her go," Avery said, moving closer. The man's attention shifted to her. Well, 2 pretty girls. This is my lucky night. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave," Lena said, trying to pull free. "Or what? You'll call the cops?" He laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Honey, I am a cop, off duty but still." Avery's heart sank. She'd seen his type before, men who used their authority to intimidate, to take what they wanted. "Please," Lena said, her composure finally cracking. "You're hurting me." "Am I?" He twisted her wrist, making her gasp. "Oops." Something snapped inside Avery. She'd spent months watching Lena give pieces of herself to everyone who needed them. Watching her work herself to exhaustion, for people who barely saw her as human, not tonight. "I said let her go." Avery's voice carried an authority she'd forgotten she possessed, the tone she used in boardrooms when someone had pushed too far. The man looked up, surprised by the steel in her voice. "And who the hell are you? Someone who's about to make your night very unpleasant, if you don't take your hands off her right now." He released Lena's wrist and stood up, swaying slightly. He was bigger than Avery had realized, maybe 6'2", with the build of someone who'd once been athletic. "You threatening me, little girl? I'm giving you a chance to leave with your dignity intact." He laughed again. "My dignity? You're a waitress in a shithole diner. What are you gonna do?" Avery felt the familiar calm that came before a hostile takeover. The cold calculation that had made her father's enemies underestimate her. "I'm going to call the police," she said, pulling out her phone. "And when they get here, I'm going to tell them about the drunk off-duty officer who assaulted a young woman. I'm going to describe how you grabbed her, hurt her, threatened her. And then I'm going to post the security footage online with your badge number." His face went pale. "There's no security footage." Avery pointed to the camera above the register. "Want to bet?" It was a bluff. The camera had been broken for months, but he didn't know that. "You're bluffing." "Try me." For a moment, they stared at each other across the empty diner. Rain hammered against the windows. Lightning illuminated the parking lot in stark white flashes. Then he blinked. "Crazy bitches," he muttered, throwing a $5 bill on the table. "This place is a dump anyway." He stumbled toward the door, pausing to look back at them. "See you around, ladies." The threat in his voice was unmistakable. After he left, Lena sank into the nearest chair, her whole body shaking. "Are you okay?" Avery knelt beside her, gently examining her wrist. It was already starting to bruise. "I'm fine. I'm used to it." "No." Avery's voice was fierce. "You shouldn't be used to it. No one should have to be used to that." Lena looked up at her with something like wonder. "Where did that come from? The way you handled him?" Avery's mind raced. She'd slipped, shown too much of her real self, the commanding presence that came from years of corporate warfare. "I don't know," she lied. I couldn't watch him hurt you. You were incredible, like you'd done it before." "I haven't." Another lie. She'd faced down hostile board members, aggressive competitors, men who thought they could intimidate her because of her age or gender, but she'd never had so much at stake. "We should call the real police," Avery said. "And tell them what? That an off-duty cop got handsy? They'll take his word over ours." The casual acceptance in Lena's voice broke Avery's heart. How many times had she been in situations like this? How many times had she just endured it because fighting back seemed impossible? "This isn't okay," Avery said. "I know, but it's reality." They finished closing in silence, both jumping at every sound. When they finally locked up, the storm had passed, leaving the parking lot slick and gleaming. "Thank you," Lena said as they reached their cars, "for standing up for me. No one's ever—" She trailed off, but Avery understood. No one had ever protected her before. "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. What you did was brave. Brave." Avery almost laughed. She'd faced down a drunk with words and attitude. Lena faced down life every single day with nothing but determination and grace. "Drive safe," Avery said. "You too." Lena drove away, her taillights disappearing into the night. Avery sat in her truck, hands still shaking from adrenaline. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Nice show tonight. See you soon." Ice flooded her veins. He'd gotten her number somehow, or maybe it was just a random threat. Either way, everything had changed. She thought about calling her security team, having them trace the number, maybe arrange protection. But that would mean revealing who she really was. And she wasn't ready for that conversation. Not yet. Avery drove to the motel, checking her mirrors constantly. The parking lot was empty, the night quiet except for the drip of water from the eaves. In her room, she stared at her reflection in the cracked mirror. The woman looking back at her was different from the one who'd walked into Murphy's 3 months ago. Stronger, maybe, or just more aware of what strength really meant. She thought about Lena's bruised wrist, about the fear in her eyes, about the way she'd accepted it as just another part of her reality. Tomorrow, Avery would put on the uniform again, serve coffee and smile at customers and pretend to be someone she wasn't. But tonight, she'd shown a glimpse of who she really was. And it felt like the first honest thing she'd done in years. The text messages started the next morning. "Thinking about you. Can't wait to see you again. You looked so pretty last night." Avery stared at her phone, her coffee growing cold. The number was different each time, but the tone was unmistakable. He was hunting them. She wanted to tell Lena, but how could she explain having multiple phones? The cheap burner she used for her cover story, and the encrypted iPhone that connected her to her real life. At Murphy's, Lena moved differently, constantly checking the windows, jumping at sudden sounds. The easy confidence she'd built over months was gone, replaced by the hypervigilance of prey. "You okay?" Avery asked during the morning rush. "Fine." Lena's smile was brittle, just tired. But Avery could see the truth in the dark circles under her eyes, the way her hands shook when she thought no one was looking. The lunch crowd brought its usual chaos, but underneath the normal rhythm of the diner, tension hummed like a live wire. Every time the bell chimed, both women looked up with barely concealed fear. At 2:30, he walked in. Not the drunk from the night before. Someone else. Younger, cleaner, but with the same predatory smile. He chose a table with a clear view of the counter and ordered coffee. "I'll take him," Avery said quickly. "No." Lena's voice was firm. "I can handle it." But when she approached his table, Avery saw her hands trembling. "What can I get you?" Lena asked. "Coffee's fine, but I was hoping we could talk." "About what?" "My friend was here last night. Said you girls were real friendly." The word dripped with implication. Avery felt her vision narrow, the way it did before she destroyed someone in a negotiation. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Lena said carefully. "Has there?" He leaned back in his chair, studying her like she was something he might buy. "Because he said you were real accommodating, especially after hours." Lena's face went white. "That's not... We don't... Relax, sweetheart. I'm not asking for anything you haven't already given." Avery was moving before she realized it, crossing the diner in 3 quick strides. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, her voice deadly calm. The man looked up at her with amusement. "No problem. Just getting acquainted with the local hospitality. I think you should leave. Do you now?" He stood up slowly, deliberately invading her personal space. "And what if I don't want to? Then you'll find out what happened to your friend last night." His smile faltered slightly. "What happened to my friend?" Avery leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "He left. Quickly. And if you're smart, you'll do the same." For a moment, they stared at each other. Then he threw $1 on the table and walked out, but not before looking back at Lena with a promise in his eyes. "This isn't over," he said. After he left, Lena collapsed into the nearest chair. "They're not going to stop," she said, her voice hollow. "Are they?" Avery's chest tightened. "We'll figure something out." "We?" Lena looked up at her with desperate hope. "There is no we. You're new here. You don't understand how things work." "Then explain it to me." Lena laughed bitterly. "Guys like that, they have friends, connections. They can make life very difficult for people like us." "People like us?" "Nobodies, waitresses, women who don't matter." The words hit Avery like a physical blow. "You matter." "Do I? To who?" "To me," Avery wanted to say, "to everyone whose life you've touched. To the elderly man who lights up when you remember his coffee order. To Marcus, whose family you fed when they were struggling. To your grandmother, who raised you to be the most extraordinary person I've ever met." Instead, she said, "To more people than you know." That evening, Dolores called them into the office. "I heard about the trouble," she said without preamble. "And I'm sorry, but I can't have this kind of drama in my restaurant." Avery felt the floor drop out from under her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe it's time for you girls to find other employment." "You're firing us." Lena's voice was barely a whisper. "Because we were harassed?" "I'm protecting my business. Word gets around that this place attracts the wrong kind of attention." "The wrong kind of attention?" Avery's voice rose. "We were assaulted, and I'm sorry about that, but I have to think about the big picture." Lena stood up slowly, untying her apron with shaking hands. "I understand," she said quietly. "Lena, no, it's okay." She folded the apron carefully, placing it on Dolores's desk. "I'll clean out my locker." Avery watched her walk away, her heart breaking with every step. This was wrong. All of it. The harassment, the victim blaming, the casual cruelty of a system that protected predators and punished their targets. "This is insane," she told Dolores. "You're punishing the victims. I'm running a business, not a charity. You want to file complaints and make waves, do it on your own time." Avery stared at her, seeing clearly for the first time. This wasn't just about Murphy's Diner. This was about every workplace where women were told to smile and endure, every corporate culture that valued profit over people, every company in her father's empire. She untied her own apron and dropped it on the desk. "You're making a mistake," she said. "Maybe. But it's my mistake to make." Avery found Lena in the parking lot, sitting in her car with the engine running. Tears streamed down her face. "Hey," Avery said, tapping on the window. Lena rolled it down, wiping her eyes. "I'm sorry you got dragged into this. Don't apologize. None of this is your fault. Isn't it? If I'd handled it differently..." "Stop." Avery's voice was fierce. "You did nothing wrong. Nothing. It doesn't matter. I needed this job. Grandma's medicine costs $800 a month. The mortgage is 3 months behind. I don't know what I'm going to do." The despair in her voice was devastating. Avery thought about the trust fund sitting in her bank account, the money that could solve every problem Lena faced without even making a dent. "There are other jobs," she said weakly. "Are there? Who's going to hire someone Dolores fired? Word travels fast in a town this size." Lena was right. In a place like this, reputation was everything, and theirs had just been destroyed by men who saw women as objects to be used and discarded. "I should go," Lena said. "Grandma will be wondering where I am." Lena, wait, but she was already driving away, leaving Avery alone in the empty parking lot. Back at the motel, Avery sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone. She could fix this. One call to her lawyers, and those men would disappear. One transfer from her account, and Lena's financial problems would be over, but it would mean revealing everything. The lies, the deception, the fact that she'd been playing dress-up in Lena's real life. Her phone buzzed. Another text. "Heard you girls are unemployed now. Maybe we can work something out." Avery threw the phone across the room, watching it shatter against the wall. She thought about Lena's tears, about Eleanor Brooks, who needed medicine they couldn't afford. About a system so broken that good people were punished for being victims, and she thought about her father's empire, built on the backs of women like Lena. Women who were told to smile and endure, to be grateful for scraps, to accept that this was just how the world worked. Tomorrow she would have to make a choice: continue the lie and watch Lena suffer, or tell the truth and lose her forever. Either way, the woman she'd fallen in love with was about to discover that nothing, absolutely nothing about their relationship was real. Avery didn't sleep. She sat in the motel chair until dawn, staring at the broken phone on the floor. By morning, she'd made her decision. At 8 a.m., she drove to the Brooks house. Eleanor was in the garden, pulling weeds with the focused intensity of someone fighting a losing battle against time. "Morning, dear," Eleanor said, looking up with clear eyes. "A good day, then. Is Lena home?" "Kitchen, making breakfast." Eleanor's expression grew concerned. "She's been crying. Won't tell me why." Avery found Lena at the stove, mechanically scrambling eggs. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her movements listless. "Hey," Avery said softly. Lena turned, surprised. "What are you doing here? We need to talk." "About what?" "It's over. We're done." "No, we're not." Avery took a deep breath. "There's something I need to tell you, something important." Lena set down the spatula, studying Avery's face. "You're scaring me. Sit down, please." They sat at the small kitchen table, the same one where Lena probably did homework as a child, where she counted pills for her grandmother and balanced impossible budgets. "My name isn't really Amy," Avery began. Lena's brow furrowed. "What?" "It's Avery. Avery Lockhart." The name hung in the air between them. Avery watched recognition dawn slowly in Lena's eyes. "Lockhart," Lena repeated, as in, "Lockhart Industries, yes." Lena stared at her for a long moment, then she laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You're joking." "I'm not." "You're telling me you're, what, a billionaire, playing dress-up?" The hurt in Lena's voice was devastating. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" Lena stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been lying to me for months." "I have been lying, but not about the important things." "The important things?" Lena whirled around. "What could possibly be important when everything else is a lie?" "How I feel about you." The words hung between them like a bridge neither was sure they could cross. "How you feel about me," Lena repeated slowly. "And how exactly do you feel about me, Avery Lockhart?" "I love you." Lena's face crumpled. "Don't." Don't you dare. It's true. It's not true. You don't even know me. I know you better than anyone. You know a poor girl who serves you coffee. You know someone you can feel sorry for. That's not... Isn't it? Lena's voice rose. Isn't that exactly what this is? Rich girl slumming it with the help? No. Avery stood up, desperate to make her understand. I came here to learn about the company, to see how employees were really treated. But then I met you and everything changed. Everything changed. Lena repeated mockingly. How convenient. Lena, please, please what? Please forgive you for making my life into your little social experiment. It wasn't an experiment. Then what was it? Avery struggled for words. How could she explain that watching Lena had changed everything she thought she knew about strength, about kindness, about what really mattered? It was falling in love, she said finally. Lena's laugh was bitter. With who? Because the person you fell in love with doesn't exist. She's just a character you created in your head. That's not true, isn't it? You saw a poor, struggling waitress and decided she needed saving. How noble of you. I never thought you needed saving. If anything, you saved me. From what? Your trust fund? The sarcasm cut deep, but Avery pressed on. From a life that meant nothing. From being someone who only cared about profit margins and market share. And now you care about what? The little people? I care about you. You care about the idea of me. The fantasy. Lena's voice broke. Do you have any idea what it's like? Worrying about every dollar, every bill, every medical emergency, lying awake at night wondering how you're going to make it through another month? No, Avery admitted. I don't. Of course you don't. Because when this little adventure gets boring, you go back to your real life. Your penthouse and your private jets and your world where people like me don't exist. That's not what this is. Then what is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been playing house with my life. Avery felt tears burning her eyes. I know how this looks. I know I've hurt you. But everything I felt, everything between us, that was real. Was it? Because I don't even know who you are. Yes, you do. The person who held your hand when you talked about your parents. The person who listened to your dreams about traveling. The person who stood up to those men. That's who I really am. No, Lena said quietly. That's who you pretended to be. Eleanor appeared in the doorway, her expression confused. What's all the shouting about? Lena wiped her eyes quickly. Nothing, Grandma. Just a misunderstanding. Doesn't sound like nothing. Eleanor looked between them. You girls have a fight? Something like that, Lena said. Eleanor studied Avery with sharp eyes. You're not who you said you were, are you? Avery's throat tightened. No, ma'am. I'm not. I see. Eleanor nodded slowly. Well, lying's never a good foundation for anything, but sometimes people lie because they're scared of the truth. Grandma. Hush, child. I may be old, but I'm not blind. Eleanor looked at Avery again. The question is, what are you going to do about it now? I don't know, Avery admitted. Well, you better figure it out. Because that girl there, Eleanor pointed at Lena, she's got the biggest heart of anyone I've ever known. But she's also got more pride than sense sometimes. Grandma! It's true. You'd rather suffer in silence than accept help from someone who cares about you. Eleanor's voice was gentle but firm. Sometimes pride is just fear wearing a fancy dress. Lena's face flushed. This isn't about pride, isn't it? This girl, whatever her real name is, she's standing here telling you she loves you, and you're so busy being angry about the lie that you can't hear the truth underneath it. The truth? Lena's voice cracked. The truth is she's been lying to me for months. And why do you think she did that? Lena opened her mouth, then closed it again. I'll tell you why, Eleanor continued. Because she knew you'd react exactly like this. You'd assume the worst, push her away, convince yourself you're not worth loving. That's not... Child, I raised you. I know how your mind works. Someone shows you kindness, and you look for the catch. Someone cares about you, and you find reasons why they shouldn't. Avery watched the exchange, her heart breaking for both women. Eleanor was right. Lena's first instinct was always to protect herself by expecting the worst. She lied to me, Lena said, but her voice had lost its edge. Yes, she did. And that was wrong. Eleanor looked at Avery. Wasn't it? Yes, ma'am, it was. But lying doesn't erase caring. And caring doesn't excuse lying. Eleanor sat down heavily at the table. Seems to me you both made mistakes. Question is, are they the kind of mistakes you can forgive? Silence filled the kitchen. Outside, birds sang in the garden Eleanor had tended for 40 years. Inside, 3 women sat with the weight of truth between them. I need time, Lena said finally. To think. Avery nodded. Though it felt like swallowing glass, I understand. Do you? Because I don't think you do. Lena's voice was tired now, drained of anger. You can go back to your real life anytime you want. I'm stuck here, with the consequences of whatever this was. What consequences? I lost my job because of you, because I trusted you, because I let myself believe. She trailed off. Believe what? That someone like you could actually care about someone like me. The words hit Avery like a physical blow. Someone like me? Rich, powerful, beautiful. You could have anyone. I don't want anyone. I want you. Lena's eyes filled with tears again. You want the idea of me, the project, the charity case. Stop saying that. Why? Because it's true? Because it's not. Avery's voice rose. You think I came here looking for a charity case? You think I spent 3 months learning to serve coffee and clean grease traps because I was bored? I don't know what to think anymore. Then let me tell you. Avery moved closer, her voice intense. I came here because I wanted to understand how my family's business really worked. I stayed because I met the most extraordinary person I've ever known. Extraordinary, Lena repeated flatly. Yes. You work 2 jobs to take care of someone who doesn't always remember your name. You give your last dollar to help a coworker's family. You see the best in people who treat you like garbage. You're brave and kind and stronger than anyone has a right to be. I'm not brave. I'm terrified all the time. That's what makes it brave. Eleanor cleared her throat. If you girls are done arguing, I have something to say. They both turned to her. Lena, honey, you've been hurt before. I know that. But you can't let fear make your decisions for you. I'm not. Yes, you are. You're so scared of being disappointed that you'd rather push away something good than risk getting hurt. Eleanor turned to Avery. And you, child. You made a mess of this. Good intentions don't excuse bad choices. I know. Do you? Because it seems to me you thought you could control how this played out. Thought you could reveal the truth when it was convenient for you. Avery felt heat rise in her cheeks. That's not... Isn't it? You had months to tell her the truth. Instead, you waited until circumstances forced your hand. The accusation stung because it was accurate. Avery had told herself she was protecting Lena, but really she'd been protecting herself. Protecting the fantasy of a life where she could be loved for who she was, not what she owned. You're right, she admitted. I was selfish. Yes, you were. But selfish doesn't mean you don't care. It just means you're human. Eleanor stood up slowly, her joints creaking. I'm going to take a nap. You two figure this out. But remember, life's too short to waste on pride and fear. She shuffled out of the kitchen, leaving them alone. She's something else, Avery said softly. She raised me to be better than this, Lena said, to be forgiving. And I was raised to get what I want, no matter the cost. Avery sat down across from her. Maybe we both need to learn new ways of being. Lena studied her face. What happens now? I don't know. What do you want to happen? I want to trust you, but I don't know how. Then let me earn it back. How? Avery took a deep breath. Let me help you. Really help you. Not as some rich girl playing games, but as someone who cares about you. Help me how? The job situation, the harassment, your grandmother's medical bills, all of it. Lena's expression hardened. I don't want your money. It's not about money. It's about justice. What does that mean? It means those men who threatened you, they're about to learn that actions have consequences. It means Dolores is going to discover that firing employees for being harassed is illegal. It means things are going to change. You can't just wave a magic wand and fix everything. No. But I can use the resources I have to make sure the right thing happens. Lena was quiet for a long moment. And what do you get out of it? Maybe a chance to prove that what I feel for you is real. And if I say no, If I tell you to go back to your real life and leave me alone? Avery's chest tightened. Then I'll respect that. But I'll still make sure those men face consequences. Because that's not about us. That's about what's right. You'd do that? Even if I never wanted to see you again? Yes. Why? Because you deserve justice. Because other women deserve protection. Because some things matter more than what I want. Lena stared at her for a long moment. I need time to think. How much time? I don't know. Maybe a lot. Avery nodded, though it felt like her heart was being torn in half. I'll wait. What if I decide I can't forgive you? Then I'll have to live with that. And what if I decide I can? Then maybe we can figure out what comes next. Together. Lena walked her to the door. On the porch, she turned back. The person I fell for, Amy, the clumsy waitress who burned herself on hash browns and cried during sad movies, was she real at all? She was the realest thing about me, Avery said. Everything else was just window dressing. I hope that's true. It is. Lena closed the door softly, leaving Avery alone on the porch where they'd shared sweet tea and dreams just days before. Everything had changed, but maybe, if she was very lucky and very patient, it could change again, this time for the better. 2 weeks later, Avery sat in the conference room of Lockhart Industries' Nashville office, watching her legal team present their findings. We have enough evidence to file charges, her lead attorney said. The harassment, the threats, the coordinated intimidation, it's all documented. And the employment violations? Murphy's Diner violated at least 6 state and federal laws when they terminated Ms. Brooks and When they terminated both employees for reporting harassment, Avery nodded. She'd spent the past 14 days using every resource at her disposal. Private investigators, legal experts, even a few well-placed phone calls to ensure the right people paid attention. What about the officers involved? Internal Affairs is investigating. The text messages were traced to their personal phones. They're looking at suspension, possibly termination. Good. Avery closed the file. Make sure Ms. Brooks gets a copy of everything. She deserves to know that justice is being served. Will you be delivering it personally? Avery's chest tightened. No, send it through proper channels. She hadn't seen Lena since that morning in the kitchen. Hadn't called or texted or driven past the house, though she'd wanted to 100 times. She'd promised to give Lena space, and she meant it, even if it was killing her. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Can we talk? Lena. Avery's hands shook as she typed back. Of course. When and where? Tonight. Murphy's Diner. 8 p.m. The irony wasn't lost on her, going back to where it all began. At 8 o'clock sharp, Avery pulled into the familiar parking lot. Murphy's looked different somehow. Smaller, shabbier. Or maybe she was seeing it with different eyes. Lena was waiting in a corner booth, wearing a simple blue dress that made her eyes look like storm clouds. She'd lost weight, Avery noticed. The stress of the past weeks showing in the sharp angles of her face. Hi, Avery said, sliding into the opposite seat. Hi. They sat in awkward silence for a moment. The diner was nearly empty, just a trucker at the counter and an elderly couple sharing pie. I heard about the charges, Lena said finally. Good. You deserve to know. Thank you. For following through. You don't need to thank me. It was the right thing to do. Lena nodded, studying her hands. Dolores called. Offered me my job back. Said it was all a misunderstanding. Are you going to take it? No. Lena looked up, and Avery was surprised to see determination in her eyes. I'm done with this place. What will you do? I got accepted to the nursing program at Nashville Community College. Full scholarship. Avery's heart leaped. Lena, that's incredible. When did you apply? 3 years ago. I've been on the waiting list ever since. Lena's smile was small but genuine. Apparently someone made a very generous donation to their scholarship fund, enough to cover tuition, books, and living expenses for several students. Avery kept her expression neutral. That's wonderful. You'll make an amazing nurse. Will I? I've never been anywhere but here. Never done anything but serve coffee and take care of Grandma. You've been taking care of people your whole life. This is just making it official. Lena was quiet for a moment. The scholarship comes with one condition. I have to maintain a 3.5 GPA and complete a summer internship at a medical facility in Atlanta. Atlanta's a great city. I've never been to a city, any city. You'll love it. There's so much to see, so much to do. What about Grandma? The scholarship includes funding for in-home care, professional nurses who can provide better care than you could alone. Lena's eyes narrowed slightly. You know a lot about this scholarship. I researched the program after you mentioned wanting to be a nurse. Did you? It wasn't a question. Lena was too smart not to connect the dots. Why? She asked. Because you deserve the chance to follow your dreams. Even after I told you I needed time? Even after I pushed you away? Especially then. Lena leaned back in the booth, studying Avery's face. You really did it. Used your money and influence to change things. I use the resources I have to correct injustices. There's a difference. Is there? I think so. I hope so. The waitress, a new girl Avery didn't recognize, brought them coffee without being asked. They sat in silence, the familiar sounds of the diner washing over them. I've been thinking, Lena said finally, about what you said, about falling in love. Avery's heart stopped, and I think you were right. About the person you fell in love with being real. She was. She is. But I also think you fell in love with an idea. The idea of being someone different. Someone better. The words stung because they held truth. Maybe. At first. And now? Now I know that the person I want to be is someone worthy of you. Lena's eyes filled with tears. You can't build a relationship on wanting to be better. You have to actually be better. I know. I'm trying. Are you? Because it seems to me you're still trying to fix things with money. The scholarship isn't about fixing things. It's about giving you choices. Choices you think I should make. Choices you already wanted to make. I just removed the obstacles. Lena sipped her coffee, considering this. What if I don't want your help? What if I want to make my own way? Then you give back the scholarship and find another path. But don't reject opportunities because of pride. Is that what I'm doing? I don't know. Are you? Lena was quiet for a long moment. Grandma likes you. The subject change caught Avery off guard. I like her too. She says you have good bones. That's her highest compliment. What does that mean? That underneath all the complications, you're solid, trustworthy. Do you agree? I'm starting to. Hope bloomed in Avery's chest. Starting to? I've been angry for 2 weeks, hurt. Feeling betrayed and stupid and used. I never meant... I know, that's what I figured out. You didn't set out to hurt me. You just got in over your head. Way over my head. The question is, what happens now? Avery took a deep breath. I don't know. What do you want to happen? I want to trust you again, but I need to know that you see me as an equal, not a project. You're not a project. You're the strongest, most incredible person I've ever met. Even without the tragic backstory? Even if I was just a regular person with a regular life? Especially then. Lena smiled. The first real smile Avery had seen from her in weeks. I'm scared. Of what? Of your world. Of not being enough. Of losing myself in all that money and power. You could never lose yourself. You're too grounded for that. Am I? Because sometimes I think about what it would be like. Having enough money to never worry again. Being able to help people the way you helped me. Money doesn't make you a better person. It just gives you more options. And what if I like those options too much? Then we'll figure it out together. Together? Avery reached across the table, covering Lena's hand with her own. If you'll have me. If you're willing to try. What would that look like? You and me? I don't know. We'd have to figure it out as we go. Long distance while I'm in school, if that's what you want. What about your life? Your responsibilities? I can work from anywhere, and my responsibilities include making sure the people I care about are happy. Lena turned her hand over, intertwining their fingers. This is crazy. The best things usually are. What if it doesn't work? What if it does? They sat holding hands across the table where they'd shared so many conversations as co-workers, where Avery had fallen in love with a woman who saw magic in small moments and found strength in kindness. I have conditions, Lena said finally. Name them. No more lies. ever, about anything. Agreed. I pay my own way through school. The scholarship is one thing, but I don't want handouts. Understood. And we take this slow, really slow. I need time to adjust to all of this, as slow as you need. Lena squeezed her hand. Okay. Okay? Okay, let's try. Avery felt tears spring to her eyes. Really? Really. But if you hurt me again, I won't. You better not, because Grandma likes you, but she loves me more, and she knows where to hide a body. Avery laughed, the sound bright and free. I'll keep that in mind. They talked until the diner closed, making plans and sharing dreams. Lena would start school in the fall. Avery would split her time between Atlanta and Nashville, learning to balance her corporate responsibilities with her personal life. It wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges, adjustments, moments of doubt. But as they walked out into the Tennessee night, hands intertwined under the stars, Avery knew they'd figure it out. Together. 6 months later, Avery stood in the doorway of Lena's tiny Atlanta apartment, watching her study for finals. Textbooks covered every surface, and Lena's hair was pulled back in the messy bun that meant she was deep in concentration. How's it going? Avery asked, setting down coffee and sandwiches from the cafe downstairs. Good. Scary. Amazing. Lena looked up with tired but happy eyes. I love it. All of it. Even the gross anatomy class, especially that. Did you know the human heart has 4 chambers and beats about 100,000 times a day? I do now. Lena grinned. Sorry, I get excited about this stuff. Don't apologize. Your passion is one of the things I love most about you. One of the things? Among many. Lena stood up, stretching. What are the others? Your kindness, your strength, the way you see the best in people, the way you make me want to be better, and the way you look in scrubs. Lena laughed, the sound filling the small apartment with joy. You're ridiculous. Ridiculously in love with you. Good thing I'm ridiculously in love with you, too. They kissed in the afternoon light streaming through the windows, surrounded by medical textbooks and the promise of a future they were building together. It wasn't the life either of them had planned. It was better. Outside, Atlanta hummed with possibility. Inside, 2 women who'd found each other in the most unlikely place held tight to the love they'd fought for. And in a small house in Tennessee, Eleanor Brooks smiled as she read her granddaughter's latest letter, knowing that sometimes the best things in life come disguised as the worst. Love, she'd learned, had a way of finding you when you least expected it, and when it did, it changed everything.